Hi, loves. This is Shannon Easterly, licensed clinical marriage and family therapist. I'm a little bit tickled with myself today. That's actually not new. I'm generally a little bit tickled with myself for one reason or another. I never actually know when I'm going to make a video. I just sort of wake up one morning and go, oh, I have something to share today. And I keep kind of sneaking on and sneaking off of social media as I'm just finding my way through this and deciding what I'm comfortable with and learning to put myself out there. And so if you've seen something in the past that you are not finding anymore and it was something that you wanted to be able to refer back to, just shoot me an email. I'm sure I still have it and I can happily send it to you. But I will probably be putting things up and taking them down for a while just as I kind of get my feet wet as I go. Today I want to talk about a concept that has probably been the most important concept to me as a human being and individual in my journey to becoming a therapist and to hopefully continuing to become a better functioning person as time goes on. We're going to talk a little bit about Bowen theory and the theory of differentiation of self. Murray Bowen was a theorist who began to observe that families can be what he described as highly enmeshed. That word is E, N as in Nancy, M as in magpie, E as in elephant, N as in Nancy, S as in snake, H as in Henry, E as in elephant, D as in dog. Those are not phonetically correct words, but you get the gist. When we are highly enmeshed and we have a low level of self-differentiation, we are only okay if everyone thinks the same way, believes the same way, feels the same things, and as long as that's happening, we are golden. Everything is perfect and wonderful and beautiful. The challenge with that is that we can't stay that way because we're all different. So it's all good until it's not. And then with high enmeshment comes high reactivity. So when we're not all thinking the same way, there's going to be a big brouhaha. There's going to be high reactivity. And that's going to be followed, oh, you can't really see my arms, by some kind of emotional distancing or cutoff. And then we'll come right back together at some point, whether it's 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades later, and we'll be all up in each other's business again, singing Kumbaya and holding hands and sleeping in the same oversized t-shirt. And it will be beautiful once again until it's not. And then there's going to be high reactivity and then cutoff. So enmeshment and cutoff are two sides of the same, two sides of the same not so functional coin. We think of cutoff sometimes as being really strong. That I can't stand this person. I don't like the way they think, so I'm just going to cut them out of my life. Really what cutoff says is this person affects me so much emotionally that I am not able to set boundaries in relationship with them. And so I just have to move them out of my life completely. So it is not a way of saying this person doesn't affect me. It's a way of saying this person affects me so much that I can't figure out how to have a self in relationship. So what does a self mean? So if we go from enmeshment, high reactivity, cutoff, back to enmeshment, and enmeshment and cutoff being two sides of the same not so functional coin, the antithesis of that process is what's called differentiation of self. Differentiation of self is the ability to be in relationship with someone without losing oneself in relationship. It's the ability to say, I'm here, this is what I'm thinking and feeling. You're there, that's what you're thinking and feeling. And it's okay for us to feel differently about this. I don't have to convince you to feel the way I feel. You don't have to convince me to feel the way you feel. I may have to set boundaries in it if you feel differently than I do, and the way that you feel doesn't work okay for me in my life. I may have to set some boundaries for myself, but I'm not going to try to convince you to feel like I feel, and I don't need you to convince me either. I can be open to new information and to changing my mind. When we have a low level of differentiation, when we are highly enmeshed or we are just completely averse to new information, we're basically saying, I can't tolerate it. I don't have enough self to allow myself to question. I can't tolerate somebody being different than me. When we are differentiated, we can take in new information and we can decide, is that something that makes sense to me? Can I adjust the way that I think? Is there's something of value in this to me? So why is this important? When we look at relationships, and in relationship, we tend to choose someone who is the opposite from us, but is also about the same distance from the mean. So if we take that same dynamic and we decide that differentiation is like right down the center line, you're gonna have one partner who pushes toward cutoff and one partner who pushes toward enmeshment. So, and both partners are at least gonna start out about the same distance from the mean. So what that means is when things get rocky, you've got one partner who's gonna create distance and you've got one partner who's gonna want to really get close. So I will give you an example of why this has been so important in my world. When I first became aware of this theory, what I began to recognize about myself is that I tend very strongly toward enmeshment. When I care about someone, I want to be all up in their world. I want to, share thoughts and feelings and be with them and blah, 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 blah. So who do I choose? I choose someone who wants to be, who when they are feeling any kind of stress, they're going to move to the opposite corner. They're going to go the other direction. So I have had to work really hard to move toward differentiation of self, to develop enough self that I can tolerate distance in a relationship, that I maintain a sense of self in relationship with others so that I am not destabilized when somebody else thinks differently than I do or has a different opinion or makes different choices. And I continue to have to do that work every day. And that's the beautiful thing about this too, is that we do continue to have to do this work. And for somebody who pushes toward cutoff, so I have to do the work of kind of moving out of enmeshment and into self, like moving out of this is how I fit with this person and into this is how I fit with me, and this person can be a part of that, but I still have to be centered in me. Whereas somebody who leans toward cutoff, they may have to do the opposite work. They may have to really lean in a way that's uncomfortable to them to make sure that the idea is for both partners to move toward the center. So if somebody leans toward cutoff, like when things get intense, they tend to push away. They might have to work really hard to learn how to stay present and maybe even eventually turn toward. So the key when we think about enmeshment or cutoff, the hallmark of those two places is reactivity. Reacting strongly to outside stimulus, or somebody else's response, somebody else's thought process, somebody else's reactions. The hallmark of differentiation of self is being able to stay in a place of lowered reactivity. Again, it's on a continuum. So I do pretty well in this in a lot of different areas, and the way, God, the universe, however you want to look at it, works is, we have a hurdle in our life. We hit that hurdle and knock it down, hit that hurdle and knock it down. We hit it, topple it, somehow make it over, or hit it, topple it, somehow make it over. And then we clear that hurdle and we're like, yes, I did it. And God or the universe or whoever's up there goes, that's fabulous. Here's your next hurdle. Enjoy. So I've worked on it long enough that I do really well in some areas of my life, and then I get the next hurdle. But the importance of it is that when reactivity goes up, communication goes down. And if we choose a partner who's at the same distance from the mean, and our reactivity goes up and one partner goes toward and the other partner goes away, and there's high reactivity in that, then communication breaks down and the relationship breaks down. And so it's so important for both partners to recognize where they are in that and to work on their own individual part of that. So, and believe it or not, you can be the partner who tends toward enmeshment in one relationship and end up connecting with someone in a way that you are the partner who moves toward cutoff in the next relationship. Every relationship is co-created. So we have to work on our own differentiation of self, our ability to stay in self, manage our reactivity, and work through whatever emotions we're having internally, learning how to self-soothe either with the help of a therapist or through our own research and work, so that we're not projecting every emotion that we have onto that other person and onto that relationship. It's hard work. It's important work. It is the work that grows us up and allows us to be successful over time in relationship. I know I'm going to turn off this video and I'm going to think of like 50 other things that I wanted to say, because that's just how my brain works. So hopefully not, and I suppose if I do, I will just make another video. So obviously if I had known I was taping today, I might have gotten a little more dressed up. Or not. I don't know who I'm trying to kid. Nobody died. Anyway, the more differentiated we are as individuals, the more livable we are in relationship with others. The happier we are, because we are not subject to the whims of somebody else's emotion. We cannot control what somebody else thinks or says or does. And if we have a low level of self-differentiation, if we, fly from enmeshment to cutoff with reactivity in between, then we are very much controlled by external forces, because if this person says this or this person says that, we're going to experience big emotion based on what they're saying or doing or feeling. Whereas when we move to a place of greater differentiation, we're not subject to that in the same way. And it's interesting when you think about, and please do not hear me disparaging organized religion. It's interesting to think about religion in terms of, we think the same way, feel the same way, believe the same things, and if not, there's going to be a big brouhaha, and you might get excommunicated, shunned, burned at the stake until you get it right again, and then you will be welcomed back with open arms. And then it's interesting to think about that in our current political environment. Think this way, and if you think this way, man, we are grooving together. And if not, there's going to be big reactivity, and then I can't even talk to you. It's fascinating to me how much judging of the judgmental is taking place these days, and we can't solve a problem with the same energy that created it. So again, when we move into that place of differentiation, I'm observing how you're interacting or how you're engaging, how you're showing up. It's not what I want to do for myself. It's not my job to tell you to do it differently. I just need to make sure that I'm in integrity with myself and that I am showing up the way that I want to show up. But I don't have to convince you to do it differently. I just need to model. I need to be true to myself, and I need to model what that looks like to be in integrity with self. So I did just realize that I'm talking about organized religion, and I'm sitting here next to a lion and a lamb. And what I would tell you is that when I first saw this was supposed to be a big vase of flowers. And I kept looking at it and thinking, no, that's not what goes there. It's not what goes there. But what I saw is our child self and our adult self. And part of differentiation is allowing our adult self to come online and protect our child self in a way that we don't have to be reactive because our adult self is taking care. That's that self-soothing piece. And that's where sometimes we need therapy to help fill in the blanks of what we didn't receive as a child so that our adult self can come online and do that work. So that's a little all over the place, but I think you probably get the gist. If you have any questions, just post it in the comments. I hope something about this has resonated for you. Take care. So here's me being super differentiated. Obviously, I am unconcerned by what you or anyone else sees or thinks of me. Oh my gosh, so awkward. Hello, my loves. This is Shannon Easterly. I'm licensed clinical marriage and family therapist. Back with another video. And take two. Do as I say, not as I do. Hi, loves. This is Shannon Easterly, licensed clinical marriage and family therapist.